Just bear with me a second. It's still connecting to the LAMSIG YouTube channel. Okay, so just give it a little moment. It should be streaming live now. Looks like it is to me. So I'll hand over to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for everyone joining us for this LAMSIG Live. And welcome to IATEFL's Leadership Management Special Interest Group. There's live chat with ELT leaders and managers. And today we are very lucky to be joined by Matina Gatsou. She's been in the ELT industry now for 17 years, 5 of those years managing teams, and is currently Director of Teacher Training and Development at EF Teach Online. So it was a lovely explanation of what she does when she said she's part of an international team talking and managing centres which manages teams around the world. So an enormous kind of portfolio there, I think, and a wonderful way to get in touch with so many teachers around the world. Now, Matina also has ELT management experience in Vietnam, I believe, and she's well adept at managing large online teams as well as face-to-face. And I think we're very lucky to be able to steal 20 minutes of a valuable time to get some useful tips and advice. Thank you very much, Matina, for joining us.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for the kind introduction. Actually, it's so nice to hear all of that. I'm glad we're recording this. I'm going to be listening back to it. It's really nice to hear it. But thank you. It's really exciting to be here for the first live for the LAMSIG group. It's incredible that we're doing this.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and sharing your ideas, your experience for everyone as well. First question is, can you tell us, first of all, where you're based and what takes up most of your time at the moment?
I think my team, if they're watching this, they already know the answer. So I am based in Zurich, in Switzerland. We're part of the central team of the EF Teach Online, which, like you're saying, we're sort of working with the centers, managing the centers that working with teachers teaching English online all over the world. And right now, these days, specifically, what takes up most of my time is obviously as a manager, as a leader, taking care of my team, making sure they have everything they need, they have all the support and the resources that they need. A lot of what I do is also removing obstacles. A lot of what I do is liaising with different teams, even different departments within education first, to make sure that the teachers that work with us have the best experience. And of course, working with the different centers around the world. So really, it's a very varied role, which I thoroughly enjoy doing. And it's one of my favorite things about it is that I get to speak to people from all over the world every single day, and I get to sort of create great opportunities for our teachers.
It's varied and exciting, doesn't it? Yeah,
wonderful.
It is. You've touched upon 2 interesting points here, I think, is that concept of firefighter. You said finding solutions, which is wonderful, and kind of being there to for the well-being of the people that you're helping. It's sort of key elements of leadership management. So thank you for that. The next question is, how did you get into leadership or management roles here?
It's a good question. I think my story doesn't really, I don't think it differs. It's any different from a lot of us, I think, who go into the EFL industry. You sort of start as a teacher, you learn the ropes, you do well. You have wonderful people around you who recognize your potentials, who, empower you and make you better, and you can learn from, and you work with people that you learn from, and then at some point you come into a manager's position, and then you realize you have no idea what's happening and what you're doing. And you go, oh, okay, there we go, restep. So I think it was sort of like that for me. And you know, as teachers, I think we're very well placed to come into a manager's position in terms of all of the soft skills that we're bringing with us. As teachers, we're very sort of we're active listeners. We know how to actively listen. We are, I think, genuinely supportive. We're empathetic. We can read people, we can read situations. So all of these things are things that you can lean on as a first-time manager. But of course, management has a lot of other sides to it, you know, things like financial planning, things like stakeholder management, things like project management that can be quite new. So, you know, a lot of pitfalls there that I've definitely fallen in a lot of times. But I think as long as you have people around you who lift you up, who are there to support you as you're getting up and pick up the pieces with you, and you use every opportunity as a learning opportunity, then you're going to grow and you're going to get more confident. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
So as you say, very common, you know, to come up, what as they say, through the ranks, you know, and but knowing how things work on the ground, and as you say, those transferable skills, and there are lots of them, you know, from teaching to management. And I think you touched upon another very important point there of changing your mindset as a manager and seeing obstacles not as an obstacle but as a learning opportunity, as you said yourself. It's a change in mindset.
There is a lot of mindset shift that happens, I think, when you step into the management role, and from that point onwards as well. I think there's a lot of learning opportunities, but it's a whole mindset shift rather than smaller learning opportunities that you need to work on. I know I've gone through that anyway. That has been my experience.
Yeah. So would you consider yourself now as very different from, you know, back in the days when you first started teaching?
Yes, in a lot of ways, yes. In better, hopefully in a better way. Yes.
Yeah,
I feel like I've learned a lot, and I strive to do better and better. So I'm hoping I'm changing, and I'm hoping I'm evolving. And I do feel different. I feel not just more confident, but just better, in a better position to assess what is important and what isn't, what takes priority, and what shouldn't.
That's a very valuable lesson, isn't it? Yeah, prioritizing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
On that point, then, my next question, because I think that leads nicely onto that. What advice or tips would you give your pre-manager self now, if you could go back in time?
That's a really good question. I think my first and probably biggest mindset shift was about what being a leader, a true leader is. And I guess that's different for every person. And I'm sure it depends on your context and also on what you want to see yourself become as a leader. But for me, it was, and something I always say as a piece of advice to other people, you check your ego at the door before you become a manager. Your ego is no longer part of the equation, because if it is, if you suddenly become a person who's in a position of more authority, more responsibility, but also more authority, more power, and your ego is part of that, then toxic environments develop. And so you check that ego at the door, you forget about yourself. Being a leader, to me anyway, is all about taking care of the people of your team, the people who report to you, but your general team as well, the people who are around you, the team's success is everyone's success. It's their success. If there's a failure, it's my failure. And it's that whole mindset shift, because not because I consider myself, hopefully, to have been a very selfish person in the past, but I'm very sort of driven by goals. I want to get this somewhere, and when I get there, I want to celebrate that. And that's sort of very sort of, in a way, a bit more self-centered than what a leader, that my idea of a good leader is. A good leader is taking care of the others. The work speaks for itself. If you're lucky, like me, you have a team that gives you credit all the time, that celebrates you anyway, so you don't need to, make noise about what you are doing individually. But I think it's all about forgetting the individual, forgetting about the I, and just making sure that whatever you're doing aligns with the team's goals. I think that's what it is. There's no longer, it's not the I anymore, it's the team that
That's
matters.
really interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Has that been your experience at all?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, that's why I'm connecting with everything you're saying. And do you find then that, when you reach that, or the realization of the point that you're at the moment, that's a sign of your personal development? You've matured, you've become wiser, you've grown as a person, and the impact therefore is on you as a leader and a manager. But it's about
That's a really interesting way to put it, because I do think that it has helped me as a person as well to see, like I was saying, what takes priority and what doesn't. I think if it's something that I alone think needs to take priority, for example, and the team doesn't agree or they don't feel that way, then, immediately I will drop it and I will say, no, then there must be something else we can do. So I think it has helped me as a person as well to sort of be way more collaborative and just way more trusting. Yeah, in general, in life as well. I do see it as a sign of maturity.
Wonderful. It's also, I mean, think about the knock-on effects of that. It empowers your team because it gives them autonomy, which is what others want. I can do the job, just let me get on with doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need X, Y, and Z. So, okay, I've got that, and off you go. Wonderful. And it's also at the same time kind of leading by example. Or inspiring. I don't like to say lead, because lead sometimes feels like you're pulling people along, and that's not my intention. But you're inspiring by example, and I think leaders should do that.
And we should be modeling, I think, behaviors that we want to see or that we want to inspire into others anyway. And like I said, leadership is not, we know there's no one way to lead, but at least by modeling good behaviors, like with everywhere, because I can't ask my team to exhibit a behavior that I myself am not demonstrating first. It's just not fair.
Definitely. No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, and small little things, just punctuality and dress sense and anything, isn't it? It's from the details
and
to the big.
Making time for each other and making sure that you're always there to support them. Everyone is really busy. Everybody has really busy schedules. We have back-to-back meetings, a lot which my team knows about. But if you don't make time for each other, then you will lose that sense of trust and that connection that you have with the team. And I think that's one of the biggest foundations that a team needs to build on. Yeah.
So it's a recurring comment, isn't it, when in discussions with other sort of good managers and leaders, it's about the connection with the other human being on your team and human beings. It's not about the paperwork.
Yeah, absolutely is. And I think it's different connections that you're building as well with the different people in your team. And another tip, for example, that I always say, I firmly believe that leaders need to be doing is talking to other leaders. And that's why the LAMSIG, for example, is an excellent space for these kind of conversations that we're having right now. That, you need to talk to others to see how others are doing things. I try to educate myself as much as possible, watch videos, read articles, read books as much as possible, because leadership is not a one size fits all. And, you never know when you're going to come across something that just sort of helps with that mindset shift or gives you the aha moment that you needed all along to just be better. I think we can always be better.
Yeah, I completely agree. And sometimes, being at that point in the organization, it can be a bit lonely at times.
Mhm.
If you're the only, so we say, middle manager or top manager at that, in that organization, as you say, I think that's where the networking comes in. Good point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you've given us lots of very valuable advice so far, but I'm going to ask for even more, right?
I'm glad. Yes, please.
Last question. Can you tell us a problem that you're happy to share that you've had as a leader, as a manager, and how you dealt with it?
Yes, absolutely. Lots to choose from, for sure.
Well,
Because
learning opportunities.
it's exactly. It's part of the learning journey of being a leader. I guess I think one of the areas that I have struggled with in the past, and I'm still learning for sure, is having difficult conversations with my team, and particularly when it comes to having a difficult conversation with someone who is reporting to you, for example. That can always be a bit awkward. And then in the past, especially when it started, I was sort of trying to avoid conflict and say, it's going to go away. I'm sure they'll forget about it. I'll forget about it. It's going to be okay. But I realized at a certain point that it wasn't a very mature way of dealing with things as a person and as a professional. And in general, it wasn't demonstrating, like I was saying, it's important to model behaviors you want your team to show. So if I do this, then, and my team does the same, then nobody ever talks about anything difficult.
You end up with lots of elephants in the room, but no,
Exactly, which is such a shame, because a lot of these things are actually so much bigger in our heads than they are in reality when you actually talk it out. So a specific example that has happened to me in the past, where it's been a long time ago now, that was when we were in a conversation with a group. We were at work, but in an informal setting, and we were sort of having a conversation about what we do during weddings, around weddings, in our cultures, and we're sharing cultural facts with each other. And there was this sort of comment that you can perceive now. I think they're called microaggressions, where one person said, and possibly without even realizing, oh, this is what you guys all do, right? This is all you talk about, or this is what. So it was a comment like this that was a little bit unpleasant, a bit inappropriate, and it did change the atmosphere in the conversation a little bit, and I sensed it, and I saw other people sensing it, and I was glad I wasn't the only one who sensed it.
Right.
And I'm sure it's something that's happened to most of us these days. You hear a comment, a few people laugh lightly, you see that the person they are addressing getting a little bit offended, or sort of, pulling back, going, oh, like there's a bit of an attack here, a bit of an aggression here. Yeah. And so I took that person aside. It was a difficult thing to do, but I took that person aside and I said, look, what you said earlier, it made me feel a bit uncomfortable, actually, because I think if it was said to me, I would feel, X, Y, Z, I would feel this. I would actually take it as you stereotyping me, you thinking that I am nothing other than my country of origin, in a way.
Yeah.
And you do have to be careful how you phrase these things, particularly when you're talking to someone who's reporting to you. You don't want to come across as too directive or anything, but just coming from a place of, what, I think it might be better to think about phrasing it a different way next time, if you want to say this again next time. And so luckily it only happened the once, and the person was really nice. He really appreciated the comment, and hopefully he's going to be thinking about it a little bit more before he makes a comment like that. But it's never an easy thing to do, but I'm realizing more and more now that unless you have these difficult conversations, you're not allowing the people around you to grow. And then you're also not growing yourself. You're doing yourself and your team a disservice by not having these conversations, however small or however big they are. And something I'm still exploring. I'm actually talking at IATEFL next year. This is my workshop on managing difficult conversations.
There we go. We have a very good reason.
I am. Yeah, I'm becoming more and more interested in this. But yeah, I don't know. Has anything like that ever happened to you, Paul?
Well, yes, and I think I'm sort of seeing many of the comments that you're making here, kind of, and matching them to specific examples in my experience as well. And you touch upon a valuable point of that idea of it's healthier to clear the air, and you mentioned, I think, the idea of growing and maturing and saying, well, listen, we're adults, we can talk about difficult situations without getting angry. We can
Absolutely.
discuss them. We're intelligent human beings. Let's be frank, fair, polite, but open and honest. And I think that by doing that, as you said yourself, it's encouraging a more transparent culture in the workplace. And therefore, the effect of that might be what? Well, then maybe next month somebody might come up to you and say something that they probably wouldn't have felt comfortable doing before, but now they think, well, this is a transparent atmosphere. I can talk to Matina
Absolutely.
openly, and it's in everybody's interest, wouldn't?
Absolutely. It makes everything, and yeah, it's almost like an equalizing conversation, because like you're saying, if I have
Mm.
said something, then they
Mm.
feel more comfortable coming to me with something possibly that I said or that I've
Mm.
done that was potentially, hurtful or anything
Yeah,
like that. And I would want to know if I was hurting someone. So I
exactly.
think it's an interesting thing, and there are specific models, there's specific ways to deliver these kinds of conversations and to manage
Mm.
and to
Mm.
navigate all of these different feelings that come up in conversations like that. So I just think if done carefully and sensitively, and just you're coming from a place of definitely no judgment, because I didn't judge the person as a personality trait, like that's his personality or anything like that. It's an
Yeah.
incident, it's a moment, it's
Mm.
something that happened
Mm.
and ended, and you
Mm.
just address it and move on, and that's it.
It's a very healthy way. You externalize. It's not blame culture. You say, I'm not
Absolutely.
blaming you. I'm saying the impact of the words you had, the intention was fine. Yeah,
In the moment, yeah,
but
exactly.
but maybe the impact that you had intended didn't have the impact that you wanted it to have. And I think you mentioned as well that you kind of said, if that had been me on the receiving end, this is how I would. So you're not putting the other person or people into the argument, essentially. You're saying, no, this is between me and you, and this is how I would have reacted.
Absolutely. Because you also can't speak for the other person. You don't know how they felt. Even if you saw it in
Exactly.
their face or you think you
Yeah.
read it, you can't speak for the other
No.
person. The other person is going to speak for themselves if they want to. It's mostly about, how you saw it. And that also helps alleviate a little bit of the stress of these conversations. That was my impression. I don't know if
Mm.
that person felt targeted. I don't know if that person felt hurt, but that was my impression. Let's have a conversation about it. Did I take it the wrong way? Did you intend it the
Exactly.
wrong way? It's
Yeah.
it's really, it needs to be a dialogue rather than
Yeah.
this is it, fix it. By no
Exactly.
means should it be like that. Yeah.
Definitely. It's a healthy way. You've just said that it's a healthy way to phrase it, to say, can you help me understand your comment there?
Absolutely.
Because yeah, and then it's wait a minute. Now what, you're asking me for help? Yes. And it's,
Yeah.
wow, how do we turn a possibly difficult situation into a wonderful learning opportunity? And I think you've just hit the nail on the head there.
We can be
Wonderful.
talking about this for hours.
I think so, yeah. Because as you were mentioning that, I remember a difficult conversation related to kind of a teacher's choice of attire in one particular day. And it was like, we have regulations. It goes against that. What do I do? How do I say it? But again, being open and frank and saying, look, I don't mean anything by, and fine. And the teacher said, oh yeah, oh sorry, right, yeah, oh I completely, yeah, fine. And it was like, that's it. But I was very anxious about that
Of
conversation,
course.
and then realized I shouldn't have been so anxious. But again, I think the key, as you said, choosing how you phrase it is the key, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Like with everything with leadership, communication is very important, no
Mhm.
matter what message you're delivering.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting that we are in the communication sector, aren't we?
Yes.
We communication, so we should be adept at it. Yeah. Well, Martina, I don't want to take any more of your valuable time. You've been very, very gracious to allow us to take up enough of it already. Thanks for the wonderful advice, the tips, and sharing the problem and solutions with us all, because I think it's very, very valuable for all managers and leaders. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you for a very interesting conversation. And thank you to everybody who was here listening. And I can't wait to see what everybody will say in the upcoming lives. I'm very excited to see the next ones.
Well, and I think we should invite them to your talk in April at IATEFL,
Yes,
shouldn't we?
Please come. It's on Thursday on I want to say the 10th, if I remember the dates right. But we don't have the times yet, but it's going to be there. So if you're at IATEFL, please drop in, or just if you see me in the corridors, say hi.
Definitely. And LAMSIG have their PCE as well. The deadline is quickly approaching. You can find all the information on the website, and when it comes out, the program, you'll be able to see exactly what time Matina will be giving her talk. So we look forward to being there as well in April. Thank you very much, Matina. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.